All right, so we're going to add this into the 6.6 notes that we did in class. I left this off the notes because I did the guided notes and I forgot there's a section I needed to add. That's my fault, but you get some of this in 6.7, but not as much as I would like. So here we've got, so we want to make sure we're adding this into our 6.6 notes just to have, because we have a test coming up. So 6.6, composite functions. A composite function is a combination of two functions such that the output of the first becomes the input of the second. And in this case, they're written in this case like g of f of x, where essentially we're putting f of x within the g of x function. So you would evaluate f of x first and then use f of x as the input for g. And some of you have already done this, so you're kind of familiar with it. And so now let's take a look at this problem. So for the first part here, we have f of x equals x minus 5 and g of x equals x squared. The first thing we want to do is just figure out what f of g of x is, the composite here. So remember that this is really just saying f of g of x. Well, in this case, g of x we know is x squared. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug g of x in for x into f of x, meaning that this becomes x squared and then minus 5. So our answer here is just x squared minus 5. We plugged g of x in for the x of f of x, and we're done. We'll do the same thing in b here. We've got g of f of x, so we've got g of f of x. We're plugging f of x this time in for the x into g of x. So that means f of x going in for x of g of x becomes x minus 5 squared. We can go ahead and simplify this by foiling it out. So we're going to get x squared minus 10x plus 25. So now let's look at an example that involves actual numbers or actual evaluation. And we've kind of looked at this in the notes with the inverse pieces, but now we're going to talk about it with just standard values. So here we've got essentially f of g of negative 3, meaning we're going to plug this into g of x first. So that's negative 3. Okay, so, go back. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what just g of negative 3 is. So that's negative 3 squared, which in this case is going to give us 9. So then we're going to plug the 9 into f of x. So 9 minus 5 gives us 4. We'll do the same thing here. We have to recognize that this is g of f of negative 3. So we'll go ahead and calculate f of negative 3 first. So we take that, we've got negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. So that means we're going to take g of negative 8. So that means we're going to get negative 8 squared because we're plugging that into g of x. So that means this is 64. And so we'll look at one more problem. This time we've got f of x equals x squared plus 1 and g of x equals x minus 2. So we're going to figure out what g of f of x is here. So that means what we're really dealing with here is g of f of negative 2. So we'll go ahead and evaluate this part first. So we plug in negative 2 for f. So that's negative 2 squared plus 1, which is just, in this case, 5. So now we're going to plug 5 into g of x. And so that's going to give us 5 minus 2, which is just 3.